All right. So, to begin the interview, I think I really just wanted to say that, I mean, this is your guys' first full-length release, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, how's the reception been on it? I gave it a listen last week. Personally, really, really big fan of the sound on it. But what kind of reception have you guys been getting?
Yeah, good. I guess like people. The weird thing about like having a record out in the world is that unless somebody like sends you a personal message or like sees you at a show and says like, "Hey, I really love the record" or whatever, it's like hard to know. It's hard to feel what people are feeling about it. But I think that people are responding in good ways and that have given us feedback that it's a cool arty pop record. So
yeah,
I
did want to say I saw on your guys' website as well as on some of the bios that you have posted online that you actually define yourselves as college-oriented orchestral pop, correct?
Or close. That's close. Collage. Yeah. Collage-oriented.
Oh, collage-oriented. See, I read it as college-oriented, and I was going to ask if you guys purposefully market yourself to college students, because the sound is something that's actually very, very appealing to like the college scene right now. So the question's still valid. Do you guys, do you set out to appeal to a certain crowd, or do you just make what you make?
Well, I think we pretty much make what we make, but I think that in making what we make, we appeal to a certain demographic, I guess, for lack of a better word, but that's not necessarily intentional. I think we set out, especially with this record, we made the record that needed to be made at the time that we did, and that's what we were thinking about when we made it.
Yeah, though it's it's interesting to me that like college radio stations all over the country are the ones that are playing like really forward-thinking, kind of obscure niche indie music, and I don't know really why that is. Maybe it's like when you're between the ages of 18 to 23 or whatever, like you're just more open to weird. I don't know. Sorry, I probably shouldn't swear.
Oh no, it's okay. I go back and post and censor it, so you'll be fine.
Okay, you're just open to stranger things. When you're I don't know, between that age bracket. I don't know, but we just make we make strange music, and we make music that we want to hear. Essentially,
I think it's something that just kind of comes with the territory. I mean, the Pixies got famous off of college radio,
Yeah.
And they for their time were certainly very weird music. And maybe college radio is just where it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to. So now that we're on the same page, it's collage oriented. Can you go ahead and define for me and for the listeners what collage oriented orchestral pop might mean?
Yeah. Well, before I hadn't really come across the term collage pop until I went and saw Nick Zamuto of the Books do a performance in collaboration with this like vocal ensemble called Room Full of Teeth, and in the liner notes in the program it said collage pop artist, the Books, and I thought about it a lot because I was a big fan of the Books, and then we talked about it. It's like collage pop makes sense to describe our stuff in the sense of like a collage is when you take a bunch of different images from different media sources and then put them together, sometimes juxtaposed or sometimes like you can either collage using like cutout magazines, or you can collage using a program on your computer, but essentially the idea is like taking a lot of different elements that maybe normally would be separate from one another and then putting them together to make like a piece of art that sort of makes sense and it's on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess in the writing of the record, most of the songs don't have typically when you listen to a song, there's like a piano line or a guitar line that's the main instrument playing the chord progression and kind of carrying the song. And there's really not a song on the record where there's one instrument playing the main part or the chordal part or something like that, where if you took everything away and that instrument was playing, that would be the foundation of the song. It's pretty much just all of these separate lines that are beautiful on their own, but when you put them together, that's when the song happens. So even when we were recording, the guy that we recorded with, his name is Brett Bullion from Minneapolis, we would be recording and he'd be like, I don't get this song until we put the vocal in, and then he'd be like, wow, everything makes sense now.
Yeah.
Because it's all together. But when it wasn't all together, it just seemed kind of like a collage that wasn't yet finished or something.
Yeah, it's like the sum of all of its parts makes it the complete piece of music, I guess.
Good one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I definitely could pin that down. You know, well, I should say I couldn't when I was listening to your album the first time. I was having a real hard time, you know, thinking like, what are these guys' sound? Your sound is amazing, but like you said, it's so many different intricacies put together that it was taking me for a ride. But I absolutely loved it while I was listening to it.
Cool.
Do you think is collage recording, or is recording with that mindset more frustrating or difficult than like the other mindset of having the one track be the base or the one sound be the basis of the song? Do you feel a difference when you record in that style?
I don't know if there's like
I think we have different responses to this.
Yeah, I think it's just different. I think it's just different. I think that, you know, the process of this record specifically was just really long, and it took a long time, and like took a long time to make decisions on everything, every little detail. But there's something to be said for being like, I'm gonna write a guitar part that just like can stand on its own, and like this song just needs guitar and vocal. Certainly, like we've done that in the past, and that idea is still interesting to us, and like we'd love to play around with that. It's just like for this specific process of this recording, we went about it in a different way.
Yeah, it was so just to give you like a little bit of background on how we recorded it, for this record, because of where we were in our lives, Andrew pretty much laid down most of the instrumental tracks, and he's like, I would say, a self-proclaimed maximalist composer, if that makes any sense. And he would give me a track with 7 guitar lines, and he'd be like, okay, you know, write a melody and a lyric to it. So for me, the process of like the collage music, that was very hard. It would be much easier for him to hand me a chord progression and say, okay, you know, write the melody and the lyrics. So it was very hard. It did take a lot of time to find something that worked, lots of editing. But I'll say in the back end, I feel like the relationship between the melody of the vocal line and the lyrics with the instrumental parts ends up like, I don't know, I feel like I love it more because I had to spend more time with it and hate it a little bit, and so that like drew me. I don't know, I feel like the relationship is stronger because of that, because the vocal line was forced to
change,
to compromise itself, or to like move so that it made sense within the 7 guitar lines or whatever. Instead of, I don't know how it might be if he just handed me a chord progression.
I'm a fan of doing, like, I think I'm a fan of writing it as many different ways as you can. You know, like, I like it when bands take different approaches to writing with every record, or when artists like challenge themselves in that way. I don't think one way is right or wrong. I think it's just different, you know?
Right, yeah, no, it certainly is, I think, personally, for the listener, better when you have a variety on an album as opposed to just the same stereotypical sound, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys are based out of Iowa, correct? Or did you guys...
No, we
out of curiosity, where
how'd you find that?
So in doing research for you guys, I was looking on your website, but the About Me page wasn't loading. So I found you have some old band page up. I can't even remember, but it said that you guys didn't log in for. It's a self-made band promotion page, and it said that you guys were based out of Iowa. I don't remember the name of the website. I might be able to pull it up here real quick.
Yeah, so
we should pull that out.
It's funny that you say that about the website, because just before you called, I was I just pulled it up because I needed to pull something off of it. And I realized that it wasn't loading. It was because of I had put a widget in there wrong. And so it should be loading now for the most part.
But the Har-Di-Har.com, the main website.
The main website was effed up because of some widget. But so that's why you didn't see the About section.
Right. The website that I found that off of was called broadjam.com.
Oh my gosh! How'd you find that?
It showed when I Google Har-Di-Har, it actually showed up on the first page still.
Oh
okay, that's good to know.
That's funny.
And
we tear that down.
We'll give you a mini history. We started in 2012, pretty hardcore. We just like jumped right in. We started touring right away. We quit our jobs and everything. Anyway, Broad Jam was the site that we signed up for in 2012 when we were living in Iowa. We have since moved to Minneapolis, St. Paul in Minnesota, and we do not use Broad Jam anymore. But that is so funny.
We've been based in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul since 2013.
Okay, all right. Thank you for catching me up on that. What?
Thank you for catching us up on the fact that that's coming up for.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how you can't really trust that it's normal, because when you type in the search on Google or whatever, it's like it's just showing you based on what you visited before.
Right.
Like you don't actually figure that out. Interesting.
Okay,
cool.
I wanted to ask specifically, what do you guys, because Minnesota, that area, the Midwest music scene, I think, as a whole is sort of starting to grow, and there's a kind of a little bit of a movement coming out of, actually, I'd say specifically like the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. What have you guys seen as you develop as a band in, the Midwest music scene?
Geez. Well, we love the Midwest music scene. It only gets better, like, on the daily. Just, I don't know. I think with the internet, we're not anymore in the days where like everything that's new and cool and progressive is happening on the coast, which is what it used to be like. Like seriously, in Iowa, Minnesota, it would be 5-10 years before a trend would make its way towards the middle of the country. But it's not like that anymore, and the internet just makes all of us better. Because we get to collaborate, even in an indirect way, with all the other art that we're experiencing and consuming through the internet that we wouldn't normally, see in our cities. So we love the scene in Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's just some outstanding projects, and it like really every night of the week we could go see something that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of it is, the interesting thing is that there's a lot of people that I've met recently that have moved from larger places like New York City or LA or, San Francisco or something like that. They've moved to Minneapolis because of the fact that it's still relatively inexpensive to live, and sort of like the supportive arts community and scene is really large, considering the size. It's like per capita, it's really great. Like there's all every kind of art being made here. There's great visual art. There's great theater scene. There's a great weird avant jazz scene. There's a great punk house show scene. There's great
anything.
There's great anything. So there's like. I think that's appealing to people that have like lived in these larger cities and like realized how much they have to pay for rent,
right.
And then they assess that as opposed to like, where can I live where there's lots of people being creative that I don't have to like,
work 60
I don't have
hours.
to die every month when I pay rent,
right?
Essentially.
Totally.
Right.
So, yeah, and well, I just also wanted to say that like practically for us as a band. We don't have the ability to or resources to tour out to the coast all the time. So we primarily have been touring within the Midwest a lot, and in the last few years, and it's awesome. I mean, we don't feel like anything's lacking. Like there's lots of great scenes, lots of great bands.
Yeah, I've noticed, especially lately, you know, I'm originally from Indiana, and Bloomington, Indiana, that scene is blowing up musically. I've seen a lot of people coming out of Minnesota, Wisconsin. There's a guy named Brett Newski who's doing a bunch of stuff out of there. So
Yeah.
I've just been, you know, very interested in seeing. It was almost a bummer how I moved out of the Midwest, and now this great big music scene starting to develop over there. And I do agree.
It's only going to get better.
Yeah, I
Come
think
back.
the internet plays a huge part in that, and how, you know, no longer do you have to be on the coast to be what's happening. I think that's a good point to make. Yeah.
Though it is good to be on the coast because there's so many large cities.
There is,
From
yeah.
a touring perspective, like you can hit a lot of big cities with great scenes that are close together, as opposed to in the Midwest, you just have to travel like 5 to 6 hours to get between those cities. You know.
Right. Moving on to your latest release, We Will You. I wanted to touch upon the song titles and all that kind of stuff. I love it when artists explain some of the method to the madness of, you know, what goes into making their record. And one thing that I've noticed is you guys have a lot of well, just like the title of the album suggests, a lot of we's, you's, me's, that kind of stuff in the titles of your songs. You know, did a certain perspective go into writing this album that correlates with that?
Definitely, yeah. We, I think, particularly me, I have always been obsessed. I don't know. I'm like totally. The human beings are. That's my bag. I just love people, and I think it's what it's all about. So, you know, most of the songs that we've written have been in some way, shape, or form about relating to people, and that's, I think, where all that, the we, you, and me comes from. But we wrote this record particularly. We were coming off of a pretty hefty tour of an EP that we put out in May 2015, and it was just I don't know, not to go into super detail, it was really stressful for us, for our relationship, and we're married, and
I was getting there eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, for me in particular, it was like, all right, I was very sensitive to the stress, and felt like we needed to take a break in order to you know, work on ourselves individually in our relationship, and just step away from music for a while. And in doing so, because we'd been so close to music together, when we took a break from it, it you know, for better or for worse, started to feel really distant from each other, and that was very hard. But we continued to write this record, which we weren't sure if we were ever going to perform or play ever again. We just continued writing it because we had to. And I think the lyrical content, it wasn't intentional, but because it was what we were going through at the time, and it was important, we really used it to bring us back together. I know that sounds super corny, but so a lot of the songs are about like separation and being brought back together, or like not being on the same page, or asking a lot of questions about the relationship and things like that. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense. Yeah, and you know, simply looking at the titles of the songs, I agree. I mean, you know, it almost seems like from track 1 to track 9, you guys make a journey of emotions that you went through on the album. So I think it correlates perfectly to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, and that's the vibe of the sequence is the sort of conflict and resolution throughout the record.
I did want to touch upon, and I think this makes a great transitioning point. You know, you two are married, and like you just said, you came off of a long, stressful tour. I mean, what is being a married couple, also playing together in a band? What's that experience like?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
Being married is hard. That's number one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the challenging part. I mean, anytime you see this too with people that aren't married but are in a relationship together, and are in a project together. Like, the marriage is an important aspect of it, but like just in general, having a project with somebody that you're in a relationship with is hard because the lines blur between your relationship together as people, and as you know, as people that are in love with each other, and then your relationship as like collaborators, and people that are creating stuff together. So a lot of the issue is like, you know, like if the only thing you ever talk about together is your project, you know, that's not a healthy relationship, in my opinion. Like you have to find a way to like disconnect from that and actually be together as human beings, because it's like, I don't know, it's very easy to just get really overwhelmed with that and let that be, you know, the only thing that drives you and keeps you together.
I think if what is honestly, like with any relationship, and this could be with like a friendship, if it's based on like one common interest or whatever, and then that common interest fades or it gets taken away or whatever, then oftentimes the relationship ends. And that's not like I just think that's kind of a reality of all relationships. And the difference with our view on marriage, like if you aren't, like, there's no reason to get married unless you're just gonna like stay married forever, you know, like otherwise just be in a relationship. And so we have to prioritize the relationship above other things like our music or whatever else it might be. So I think that we're still in the process of figuring that out, and at the same time prioritizing being the artists that we want to be individually and as collaborators.
Mm-hmm. And you know, on the other hand of it, it's like it is really cool. It's really cool thing to be able to share that with your partner, like that you were able to collaborate and work on something that is creative and that is, you know, that is like the sum of both of you or whatever. Going back to that, you know, like that's pretty rad to be able to do that. But there's also just the boundaries that you have to make of like, hey, can we talk about our project now? No, let's have fun. Like, let's not think about that. You know, like making those boundaries is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. As you know, the tours and the process goes on. I mean, you know, would you say that being in a band together on top of your relationship has almost helped you to grow in a way? Would you like, I guess, compared to being in a different band, would you say this has taught you some lessons different than you may have learned anywhere else?
Are you sure that you're not like a psychologist that we're paying right now?
Well, I'm not trying to play psychologist, I promise.
No, I love it. That's a great question. For sure. Like 100%. We wouldn't be, I have no regrets. It's been super awesome. And even the record, I think it is a snapshot of where we were at that time, and writing it together, honest to God, saved our relationship, and we're able to tour in a different way now and able to play in a different way now, like a healthier way. And I think we're both much more grounded, I guess, to use that word, as people and as artists, because of the fact that we are making this art together, trying to be authentic together, and also remain a couple, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess in any case, like, you have to deal with expectation in a relationship and in a band, in both circumstances. And some people deal with expectation and like what they get out of something in healthy ways, and sometimes they deal with it in really unhealthy ways.
You mean like if your expectations get met or not met?
Yes, yeah. And like where your expectations of a relationship are and how to like set those, essentially.
Awesome. I do have one final question, and then we'll be all done here.
Cool.
I have seen, I watched the music videos that you guys have posted up on YouTube, and the music videos certainly also fit into the artsy indie mold that you guys are a part of. And I was just wondering, do you put equal effort into the music videos as you do into the music, or is that just kind of a fun side thing that you do along with it?
Well, we especially in the new season, like after releasing this record, we've always been intentional about what we do and what we put out, but I think we entered into a new layer of caring about what it is that we're putting out and what it's communicating and the vibe that it gives off. So we're also very into collaboration, and so I would say yes, we do put the same amount of effort, although with video, like neither of us are visual artists or video artists, and so we have leaned on other people to create those things, and also just like we work very closely with whoever we're working with, so that we're all on the same page and that we get that vibe and message across that we're trying to communicate.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely didn't put as much time into creating the music video as we did in recording the record.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the record came first. And we have musicians. Yeah, and we're primarily musicians. But we do have hopes and plans to make more videos for other songs on the record in the future, as well as do more with video and releases that we have coming up.
All right, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for your time. It was really great getting the chance to talk to you. Again, amazing record. Any last-minute plugs or anything that you want to promote, shows that might be coming up?
Yeah, I wish we were going out to Pennsylvania in the future, but we're not.
Yeah, well, if you're in the Midwest.
Yeah, come back to the Midwest, Dan.
All right, I'll make my way out there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just check out the record. We want to share it with people, and I think the best way to listen to it is like you said, like let yourself go on that journey from start to finish. It's like a journey record, get in your car and drive sort of thing, or close your eyes, let yourself go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you guys very much again for the interview. It was great getting to talk to you. Again, this was an interview with Har-Di-Har and promoting their